In this video, we're going to use Flowgorithm to outline the logic that's necessary to capture the daily coin collection. In other words, we're going to keep track of each day that coins are collected, and we're going to accumulate them. We will first use the while loop and to display this logical concept, and next we will use the for loop. So the next step is to declare your variables. Again, we declare variables so that we may define the names of each variable or identifier, and we tell the computer what kind of data we're working with. This is essential. And the four different variables that we're going to be using are coins. It is an integer data type. This variable is used in terms of asking the user to enter the number of coins. So that is going to be used to capture the number of coins. We could have called it, well, in other words, the number of coins for that particular day. Days is going to be used to capture a specific day that we're going to be collecting a coins or so many coins. How many is going to be our target variable, and of course total coins is going to be our accumulator as described in your textbook. The next step would be to initialize our variables. There are two variables that we are going to initialize. The first one is days, because that is going to be used as our loop control variable to control the loop in our while loop construct. The next one is going to be total coins. If you do not initialize these variables, this program will not work. So we're going to initialize the variables, that is days, that's our loop control variable. It's going to get initialized to 1. Total coins is going to get initialized to 0. The next step in defining and solving our problem, and that is we're going to define the ending target value. And our ending target value is going to be how many. And so we're going to use our output statement to ask the question using our string literal. How many days will you collect coins? And we're going to add the input statement, how many, we're going to use the while loop to accumulate the number of coins collected in a designated number of days, and that is determined by the user of this program. We're going to test the loop control variable days against the target value, how many. And so the next step would be to choose the while loop, and inside the while loop I always like to enclose it in parentheses. Is days less than or equal to how many? If that is true, we're going to ask the user to enter the number of coins collected for a particular day. And the way we're going to word that is in our output statement. We're going to ask the question, enter the number of coins collected for, And this is day number. What we want to do is keep up with the actual day. Day number. And we're going to use the variable name called days because that's the loop control variable that controls that loop. And what we're doing is capturing which iteration it is. And we want to have a complete sentence, so we'll say days. And so what we're doing, let me just make sure I didn't write this twice. I think I did. Let me just take that out. Enter the number of coins collected for day number, and then it's going to actually write if days is equal to a 1 in that iteration, it'll write day number 1 there. And of course, we can add a little blank space if we need to. We don't really need to, but if we needed to, we could place that there, a little blank space there for separation. And the variable that is used to capture the number of coins, I just used the variable name coins. Now, here's where your accumulator comes in. We're going to use an assignment statement. Total coins is going to be assigned to total coins plus coins. Remember, on the right side of our expression, this is where the processing takes place. Total coins right now is equal to 0. Remember, from it's set to 0. That's how the computer stores that in memory. So we're going to go back and look at that. I did not click the OK button. So total coins is going to equal to total coins plus coins. So what happens is, and I'll go back and look at this. If I put in 5 for the number of coins, the computer is going to say 0 plus 5, and it's going to assign that to coins. That's for day 1. If it is day 2, if I put in 10 for the coins for day 2, the computer is going to store 10 plus the old version 5. And it'll be 15. Because remember, the variable to the left is used to store the last information in this expression. And that's why we call this an accumulator. You have to study this very carefully and sometimes even do it by pen or pencil just to understand what's going on based on each iteration. So we are now accumulating, and I will make a comment here to specify what is going on. Accumulates or keep a running sum of the number of coins collected. Keeps a running sum of the number of coins collected. Whereas here we are inputting, ask the user to, we're prompting the user to input the number of coins collected per day. Because this is a while loop, you, the programmer, must update the loop control variable, which is days is going to equal to days plus 1. The last couple of steps would be to display the overall results. I always like to bring attention to the output, so that's the reason why I have lines between the output. That is different between having separating items. Again, this is a very good practice. You should always follow the instructions and do exactly the way your employer asks you to. In this case, as your professor, I highly recommend adding these statements between the different sections, the separating comment lines. And right now what we're doing is we're saying a total of so many coins were collected in so many days. So we're indicating the number of coins collected in the number of days that was designated. Okay, so let's review through the entire Flowgorithm program. I'm going to increase the size so that you can see it a little bit better. And you notice we always include our intro statements. That is a requirement, not an option. We define or declare our variables. That is, we tell the computer the names of the identifiers and the types of data for the purpose of letting the program know what kind of operations that are going to be performed. We initialize the variables. This is using the while loop construction. We define the ending or target value. We go into our loop where we're going to test the loop control variable against a target or ending value. Here is the loop. And now we're going to play the program or run it, execute.